cloud.
Okay.
You know what? I could also record screen. Maybe I'll do it as well.
Yeah, let's not lose it.
There we go. I pressed record screen as well.
And now your
I don't know if it'll record
your
sound.
video's back. Good. All right, with that, let's begin.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, I'm glad that we could meet up this morning and hook up the webcams.
Yeah, the world's becoming more connected, even in light of this plague. It's still happening. I love it.
Yeah, you know, the march of progress moves forward. It's interesting. I was watching a little video the other day about how each of the major financial crises in the last, like in the 70s, the 80s, and 2008, there were massive technological shifts in the market that happened at that time.
Yes.
So
that's true.
maybe we can look for a silver lining in this situation that with the, how should we say, the flu-like thing that shall not be named. Spreading around the world.
Actually, because I'm in the Galilee here, Israel, you know, and the kids, so everyone's quarantining and people are staying 100 meters apart from I mean, you can't leave the house more than 100 meters, whatever that is in feet. Oh no, Canadians use meters. So good.
We are metric. We are metric.
Yes.
So wait, Chaim, before we continue, let's just do a quick introduction now that we've gotten the ball rolling. So for those who are watching this video who don't know me, my name is Gabriel. Actually, I'm from a French-Canadian family, Gabriel. It would be the proper pronunciation, Gabriel in Hebrew. And I live in Ottawa, and Chaim and I have known each other for, what are we looking at, like 12 years, I would say.
Yeah, over a decade for sure.
Yeah. So I live in Ottawa. I am a computer programmer professionally by trade. I am a Jesus-loving Christian by day and by night. And I have had the chance to get to know Chaim, being in Israel many times and collaborating with you on projects, right?
Yes. Hey, we have less snow than you have. Woo!
Yes. There you go. Beautiful. So where are you and who are you?
Yeah, my name is Chaim. If you've seen Fiddle on the Roof, you know, it's so L'chaim is L'chaim is how we say to life. And so my name Chaim, of course, means life. And I have a wife and 3 children. And we are Galileans. We live in the Galilee, northern part of Israel, and right next to the Sea of Galilee, where, of course, our master, I believe in the greatest Galilean rabbi, Yeshua, Jesus, and he did 29 out of his 34 miracles right here around, and chose his team, his ministry team, and taught the disciples how to disciple right here. So that's exciting to not only look at the history, but what is God saying now in and through this plague, which we're in now. But it's been great to have this friendship and have this time to do this this call. And I notice people around the world are checking up on one another, and they're able to do things that they couldn't do even just 100 years ago. We're able to really pray with one another, and I see the kingdom of God growing. Yeah, even in this dark time, the kingdom of God is actually strengthening in many ways.
Well, you know, like it's historically normative that the body of Yeshua grows when it is pressed, when it is crushed, when challenges come. It's exactly like exercise. Like when we train ourselves, we do hard things, and our bodies react. God designed us that way. And so I think that the body of Messiah, Christ, is exactly the same way. So, you know, don't the apostles tell us to like rejoice in all things and to count it all joy?
Yes.
So there's just, you know, it's funny how like the good news of the kingdom of God advancing all around the world and coming back in its fullness in Jerusalem and in the Galilee.
It's true. Yeah.
It's nothing but a message of good.
Yes. Because when people see the plan, then they know that things are part of a plan if they wash themselves in the word. And actually when they say, oh, wow, my word is a light unto our path. So if God's word is illuminating our steps, we won't feel like we're in darkness or in fear. And especially hard for people who have this job security, who are out of a job. My heart really goes out to them because they haven't per se had that step to say, I'm just gonna live by faith and trust God. And some have taken that step, but here everyone's having to take, millions of people are having to be forced into a time of even being aware of afraid of getting infected. So there's fear people are dealing with, and job security, and all security is being kind of taken from people, and people can't look to the Doctor Who, World Health Organization, but they need to look to to the I Am, the great I Am, the God of Israel. Really. Oh, a quick little tidbit. I'm not actually at home right now because it says you got to quarantine. You can't go more than 100 meters from your home, but it didn't say which home. This is like my second home here. This is actually our ministry center, the Aliyah Return Center.com, AliyahReturnCenter.com. But anyway, so this is actually where we were staying in one of these rooms with the family in our second home. So we're within a fence here, and it's all closed off. And but still the work still continues, and so
yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Maybe for some of my friends who will be watching this, maybe you can show them just a little bit around there about what we do. Like I was just there for 3 weeks in February, and we were getting ready to welcome some Russians to the property. You're just right next to where you're standing. So.
Well, I want to give a shout out to you, not just because you helped us with get the website, the first website, and our logo, and actually physically laboring and the worship aspect that you bring, but really the fact that you actually worked on. See this building right here. This is really a miracle. I mean, no one really knows about the Aliyah Return Center. Many Christians wouldn't know that the word Aliyah itself, the ascension, this promised land, the return to the promised land, is called Aliyah. I myself made Aliyah. I speak English because I was actually born in the United States, and I made Aliyah. These people, we've been able to fix up this used to be an old abandoned boarding school. So the building behind me is where they are staying right now. Students, these are young people who have made their Aliyah, and they're actually staying right here because they don't have a place to go. Often the government isn't there. A lot is being spent on security, and we got the Jordan over there. We have Syria bordering, Lebanon bordering. Down in the south, there's the Hamas with Gaza, and just down across the Red Sea, you've got Saudi Arabia, and people say we gotta protect, and it's not like people think, though. It's very peaceful and beautiful here, but yet a lot of money does go to security. And then when an immigrant comes, you're like, you don't get a nice place like this. But we've been able to. You've actually helped build the decks to fix up this place for families, and they came from Russia.
That's right. So that's where I spent basically 3 weeks in February at that building right there. And those are families that have moved in, right? So
some of them right here that are just moved in. And the funny thing is,
you see the flag? They see the flag there? Nice little flag of Israel. So we're looking at. It's cool because it's just interesting to mention that we are looking at Russian Jews who have been living out in what they call in Hebrew the diaspora, right? We use that term in English too, but so outside of Israel, the land that God promised to them and to their descendants, and now they've come back, and you can see like they're like taking on that identity. That's part of what you're doing, right? That's part of the project that you're doing.
And everyone deals with immigrants. In every country, there are immigrants who need to be acculturized. They learn the new culture. In this case, Hebrew. Instead of speaking Russian or English, we got to learn Hebrew, and they got to learn. They got to know the why as well. Part of the culture and part of really the Aliyah package, as I call it, with what God prescribes in Ezekiel. If I can throw out a prophecy, Ezekiel 36 talks about this. It says, I will gather you from all the nations that I've scattered you, and I will bring you back. And even it talks about from the land of the north, but it doesn't end there because these guys came from the land of the north. They came from Russia. That's north of us. And they're right from Moscow. And so the full Aliyah packages are going to get a new heart. It says, I will remove a heart of stone, and I'll give them a heart of flesh, and then my spirit I will put within them. This is the Ezekiel 36 Aliyah package. And there's actually 700 prophecies. Many people won't automatically say, yes, that rings a bell. I know about Isaiah 49, verse 22, that says the Canadians will also carry the Jewish people in their arms and on their shoulders.
Right. So this is an interesting point, I think, to raise with people, particularly, as Gentile believers, Christians out living wherever, whether you're in France, in England, in Japan, in Canada. Oh, there we go. This is it. So, when we read those prophetic scriptures, so often we've been trained in the Christian community, we always read those scriptures as being about us, as people who have inherited the promises of God, right? But part of what you're saying is actually reading the Bible from an angle where, like, the promises of the prophets, yes, they definitely do become inherited by Gentile believers, but
Correct.
they are also still literal prophecies about the sons and daughters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? So it's
Those
a
guys we just
family
saw
blessing.
from the north, those guys we just saw, that's still true for them. They're still going to physically come here, and physically they're going to get a new heart. God's going to give them a new heart and a new spirit. Like, that's really true, and it really will happen. Of course, God's spirit will be poured out on all flesh, it says in Joel chapter 2. And it talks about a great move around the whole world, but seems like people often may focus on, I might be wrong, on, hey, the ends of the earth, we're going to the ends of the earth, we're going to get the ends of the earth for God, the fullness of the Gentiles, the ends of the earth. And I'm like, that's good, but that's true, and that's wonderful, but there's also, you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem. This is in Acts. Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. So that part is real too. We can't, we can read the Bible devotionally, but it has to be also read physically and literally, because if it's all devotionally, how can you take anything really serious if it could all be, kind of spiritualized, explained in 1,000 different ways? So this is the flag of Jerusalem, our capital. We're not in Jerusalem. We're in the Galilee. We're in Jesus' neighborhood.
Yeah. 2 hours
but
away from
we
Jerusalem.
put it because the nations surround Israel. We're not trying to make a UN here. It's just nations that are uniting to say, we like the fact that Yeshua is going to come back, not to reign from the Vatican, but from this land. And we have that, you might call it the 96th thesis of Martin Luther. The one he only put 95, but this is number 96. We, the church, understand that we are completing the Reformation, that we understand that God still has a plan that has to do with a physical, geographical, biblically laid out area called Israel, and not that we should go Israel crazy. Israel is not heaven on earth, but by the unity of the believers, will we be able to be part of this priesthood that's arising, the Melchizedek priests from around the world, which help to prepare the way of the Lord? Well, absolutely. Yeah. And it will end up here. Mm-hmm.
And that's part of, you and I have had the adventure of developing friendships with Orthodox Jews who don't believe in Jesus, who don't identify him as the King of Israel or as the Messiah. But we can see that there is this healing relationship that comes when we start to acknowledge the promises and the blessings that are upon them and their family. Like, there's just a really cool shift that happens.
Yes. Well, most people, I mean, it's not fun to talk about the Holocaust. No one wants to talk about the Holocaust. I don't want to talk about it now either. But I guess Jewish people, they have in their mind, even here in Israel, even in New York, they got in their mind oftentimes, oh, wow, it's the Christians did the Holocaust on us, because didn't Hitler have a cross in his office? And before that, wasn't there torture instruments invented by the church, in the church, which is called the Inquisition? The Catholic Church, but they're not so well versed to know, well, wait a minute, that could be an old Catholic from a Catholic tradition from way back.
Right.
And this is different. They don't know. I wish we had the Fox's Book of Martyrs. Have you ever heard of that book?
Yeah,
Fox's
I've read it.
Book
Yeah,
of
I have
Martyrs.
a copy. The other thing I would mention to anyone who's listening to us and is curious about this, and there's a book by Michael Brown called Our Hands Are Stained with Blood.
Yes.
And not a super happy title, but the whole book, and he's a fire-breathing preacher. He's a Pentecostal, and he just wants to help believers, Christians from the nations, to understand that the relationship between the church, relationship between Christianity and the Jewish identity, if I can say that, because I'm not going to say Judaism, because I think it's a bit of a different topic, but the familial identity of the Jew has not been a positive relationship.
Correct.
And it's
and
really...
even myself. Myself as a Jewish person living in Israel, I've had the privilege that not everyone has of seeing both worlds and feeling like a bridge. And you too, you're a bridge, because you've lived enough time in Israel to understand that. I understand what the Jewish people are thinking, and in a way I can understand what the Christian people are thinking. I know of the Fox's Book of Martyrs, for example, and I could go and I could say, hey, who was killing these people? First of all, who's being killed? Christians. And who's killing them? Christians. So you see, there's different kinds here. And I could go to a Jewish person, but thing is they don't know about the Fox's Book of Martyrs. All they say is just Christians killed us, and Christians might try to kill us again, and they might try to blame this whole COVID, on us, this is the strange thing with anti-Semitism is it just doesn't make any sense.
So there's a part of what you're talking about there, and some people, I think, and myself included in some of my meditations, we react quickly and think, oh, like that's just politics. You're just talking about politics. But I have found that as I've matured and grown and learned more about the interconnection between faith and politics, like ethics, morality, the source of the foundation of those things for believers comes from the scriptures, comes from the Bible, comes from the community of people who gather around that, that make like that, how would you say, like that, the furnace that kind of
the root of some things.
Digests the scriptures and teaches that community of people how to think about the world and how to relate to the world.
Right. So what are morals?
That's correctly.
What are laws? Yeah.
It's directly connected to politics. It's directly connected to government. It's directly connected to, for example, the debate between Christians about whether or not they should be rabidly pro-life and they should go and fight abortion comes from this idea that like our faith has to inform how we connect with the world, how we fit in the world. So I don't want to get into those details, but I'm just saying that 100%. It's related to what you're saying, is that, Christians lived in the world. Christians were involved in the government. They were involved in the decisions. Right. They were involved in, supporting, a lot of the dynamics that came into the persecution of Jews in Europe. We can't just erase that.
Correct.
And today, we want to be able to identify, if we're big, I'm going to say this, these are big ideas, but like if we're, I'm going to say big-minded, Rosh Gadol, like in Hebrew. Big-minded, have a bigger head, not in the negative English sense of being arrogant, but in the sense of like thinking the bigger picture and concerning yourself with the bigger picture. We want to understand how our theology, how the fundamental elements of what we teach, and like those just the subtle teachings within our communities that affect our politic, right? Affect the way we relate to the political world.
Correct. And another thing, I wanted you to see that we're building a house of prayer right here on this property, because this whole place, other than helping the immigrants and other than helping the lone soldiers with no place to go, and other than agricultural school for the mentally disabled, and the widow and True Religion Help the Widow, the various things that are going on here and the great work it is to maintain such a gift, such a place, it's really a bridge. This place is really a bridge.
It absolutely is.
Also, that is a house of prayer that's being built right now under COVID. We are looking under COVID to the later kavod, which of course in Hebrew is glory. We believe that the latter glory and the great peace that God will bring is going to still come, and that plan is still on, because some people, when they think of heaven, they think of a harp, and there may be some harps there, but they think of a cloud and a halo, but what they need to be saying is, wait a minute, on every single one of the 12 gates of Jerusalem, heavenly Jerusalem, and okay, there is going to be 12 gates. Oh, and there's going to be streets of gold, and there's going to be on the top a tribe: Issachar, Gad, Simeon, Levi. There's going to be a name of a tribe, and then on the foundation stones, this is in Revelation, we'll have, of course, one of the apostles, 12 apostles. So this is where we're going to. If we know where we're going, where we're headed, we can be part of the journey better. I think that's what we're talking about, is our politics, our faith. Don't talk about politics and don't talk about religion.
That's right.
Right.
And sure as heck don't talk about breeding.
Definitely don't do that unless you're talking about Genesis, be fruitful, multiply. But no, my point is, if we know where we're all headed, we can better be part of the journey. And you know what? Jewish people are going to be there. In fact, it says Romans 11:26, all of Israel will be saved. So I like your approach, love your approach of, hey, when we see an Orthodox person, we can look at him and say, your ancestors, you could look at me, Chaim, and your ancestors were part of killing Yeshua. True. But also the Romans actually killed. When I go to Church of the Holy Sepulchre, you don't see any Romans anywhere. All you see is Jews hammering Yeshua to the cross. But I'm like, yes, we're all responsible. We all have a part to play. We all need salvation. It's not like, we're all together in the blame of it, but then we're all together in the salvation of it and in the joy of it. And this house is a house of prayer only for Israel, here in Israel? For all nations. And that's why we're in the Galilee of the Nations.
Yeah. We really, I would say, like, one of the things, I'm not sure how much time, where we're getting on our time mark here, but one of the things that first of all, on this issue of like Jews and killing Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he said something important related to Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Mm-hmm.
That you know, we need to be very concerned the moment we don't forgive people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if somehow the enemy, the demonic principalities, Satan, if you will,
Yes.
if he
Yes.
gets in the mix and convinces you that you're justified in holding unforgiveness against anyone,
That's right.
in particular, maybe some Jewish families that for whatever reason you have, you know, a hang up about theologically, related to the crucifixion, you know, we need to take a page from Yeshua's own mouth when he said, Father, you know, forgive them for they know not what they do. How much more then are we called to forgive one another for any of that stuff, right?
Powerful words.
And
These are powerful words. You know why? Because you can see as we're all countries, well, I guess right now it's only 190 out of 195. So you got 5 countries out there that don't have any plague. I don't actually know which ones those are, but they're probably like, ha ha, on the rest of you. No,
right,
no, they're not doing that.
like a Simpsons character. Anyway.
Yeah, no, but we all are under the plague. We all are under the sin. We all are together in this, and we all are seeing that right now. God is bringing people together where we're saying, you know what, this same kind of hatred and this kind of same stuff can be between like, for example, I sometimes say this, charismatic, I will never be caught with a Pentecostal. I thought they were the same thing. No, they are not. Charismatic and Pentecostal are way different, you know, but then I'm like, you know, all of this stuff is kind of little by little, you know, it's fading away as we focus on what matters. And I think God wants pioneers to arise and righteous. These are pioneers. This is from 93 years ago when this place was founded here. This is one of the first kibbutzes, you know. I will gather you means I will kibbutz you. It's the Hebrew word for gather. And so,
Interesting.
I mean,
Yeah.
one of the first kibbutzes ever in the whole land of Israel, which of course is a wonderful thing. It's like these communal farms. So one kibbutz does textile, one kibbutz does drip irrigation, one kibbutz does mattresses. I don't know. And so these are how they were, the pioneers of the beginning. But what's written on the sign, even though many of them didn't even believe in God, it just says, we will fulfill Chazon Torah, the vision of the Torah.
Wow.
And they didn't even believe in God.
Wow.
But so what you're doing, you're saying, hey, how can we show love and not try to put up more walls? Because it's so easy to put up a wall and say, I have no grace for those Pentecostals because I'm a charismatic. I have no grace for Jewish people. I have no grace for Orthodox. Is that really what God is saying, though? I'm not talking about ecumenicalism, all roads lead to God. I'm not saying.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I think it's
Just
really important. Like, we have strong, you know, we have interpretations of what the scriptures mean, and it's important for us to hold on to the truths that we have come to understand, you know, that God has given to us.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
we have there's a cool motto that we use, which I think is so great because I made it up, but it's unconditional love in uncompromising faith. Unconditional love in uncompromising faith. I don't know how to say it in Latin. I can say it in Hebrew, but I should probably learn the Latin. Make sure everyone's. But unconditional love and uncompromising faith. That's what we need to have for each other. Because imagine this: some of this spiritual, you know, righteous fervor, which Yeshua's like, I died for that person. Okay, why can't I died for that person too? That you're so mad at, and that's not anger from me. I died for that person. You know, and so everyone wants to fight over a different thing. But look, we're at Passover. Are we ready to cross? And I'm going to say this, we're at Passover. Passover is when there was this leaving a house of bondage. They had to cross over the Red Sea. And of course, the standing ovation, the water standing ovation for the Aliyah. Remember that word Aliyah is the ascension, the journey to the promised land.
Yeah.
So Red Sea, standing ovation, they crossed over. Miracles, there's manna, there's quail, there's pillar of fire, there's pillar of cloud, there's all kinds of, they got the Ark of the Covenant, they're circling, they're Umim and the Tumim, the mercy seat. You got all this great stuff. And then you reach to the Jordan River. You have to cross in. We're at the Jordan River, by the way. It'd take me a while to walk down there, but we're here. Our property's at the Jordan River. So I'm always reminded of, are we ready to cross? Are we ready to cross? Are we ready for that cross? Because to cross, you need to have the cross. And are we ready to say, let's go over? You can't just walk over. First, you have to have faith. You have to have faith that God is in control of this raging Jordan River, and he will move mightily, because there's Passover is plague. Everyone knows Passover that we're in right now, season of Passover. There's plagues. You know, remember those 10 plagues on Egypt? And there's plague right now on the earth, but it's also that cup of communion. Everyone knows what communion is. They don't always say, oh, that's from Passover. That's the cup from the Jewish Passover. Leonardo da Vinci, he made the table a little bit wrong because it's a Passover table. It's a three.
Yeah. So, you know, like part of what you're saying, there's a dimension to this. And I just want to kind of bring an application for like anyone or devotional moments for a second.
Yes.
You know, like we really have a positive opportunity to ask ourselves, what am I called to do in the kingdom of God? Yeah. How am I called to put my hands on the plow and to help sow the fields? And I just want to encourage anyone who's watching, like, that's a good question. It's not a negative question in the sense that sometimes there can be self-judgment. There can be like this, oh, you know, like I'm wasting my time. I'm too materialistic. I'm too caught up in my job or my money or my house or my car or whatever. You know what? I really believe that, you know, when you seek God and you open your heart and you open your hands and you say, God, how can I serve? You know,
Amen.
and because I really
feel
donation.
This whole thing is donations. The whole house of prayer.
Yeah, there's good. Okay, that's a great example. Like that was a donor from China.
The first one was gave the first initial amount.
Now correct me if I'm wrong, but she felt that the Lord told her that she needed to invest in a house of prayer was it the Galilee specifically? I believe it was the Galilee, right?
Yes, this was, she said, a house of prayer in the Galilee. And we had been praying about this being turned into a house of prayer. Unbeknownst to us, God had sent her translator here to scout out the land, bring a good report of the land, like remember when the two, Caleb and Joshua, went to the land? And so then she just says, hey, you know, would this be a suitable location for a house of prayer for all nations? We're like, of course. She said, I'll give you the initial funds. And we just got started. For all that work in the middle of Passover plague. We see that cup of communion has been raised, the Passover cup of salvation. And there's actually 4 cups in Passover. Tons of fun.
You know, so this is part of like a heavenly mindset involves, I think, you know, when Yeshua talks so much about, you know, the limitless opportunities for those who believe.
Yes.
Which is really hard to hold on to, actually, in the world that we live in, because we tend to be so aware of our limitations, so aware of like the natural paradigms around us. But, you know, when we partner with the Spirit of God, when we listen and we hear and I don't want to say just obey, because it's more than obey. Like sons don't just obey like servants. And, you know, as New Testament believers in Yeshua, we were not taught to think as like just servants who are ordered to go around. Right. You know, we're taught to believe as children who are dealing with a loving Father who is rich, who is wealthy beyond imagination, right? And you and I have seen, because when we started this Aliyah Return Center, do you remember it was nothing but an idea and a dream? And we were like we were down in Tiberias with the sewage pumping out on the roof, right? And the room that I was living in at the time had sewage gas coming out of the shower.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's pretty.
So this is actually, believe it or not, because when sometimes people say, look, I'm planning a trip. I know now they can't fly, the skies are closed. But as you know, people usually are here all the time, group after group, bus after bus, plane load after plane load, whether they're immigrants or whether they're intercessors, worshipers. Hey, people from your church, you've been coming here all the time yourself. So you know exactly what I mean. And then people say, I don't want to just stay in a hotel. You know, I feel like I could be in the Hamptons. I could be, you've seen one hotel, you've seen them all. I want to stay in a special spot where I can go in the prayer room. I can go meet the immigrants. I can go pray for and bless the lone soldiers. And so that's what this place is. People stay here.
My point on this is I feel personally, and I'm sure other people can identify with this too, but I don't know why, but I have a sense in my spirit that, for example, the pioneers who worked at that kibbutz 50 years ago, who many of which have gone on to the next life. They were part of a calling, a holy calling. They were not, you know, and I know this might be hard for people to relate to when you have to understand that there is something powerful that is happening. Aliyah is a powerful force, and it affects non-believers and it affects believers. It's like a magnet, you know. even if you're a spirit-filled, Christian, and you hear the Holy Spirit and all that stuff, there is an influence. There's a draw that's happening to
Yes.
establish the home, to establish the state of Israel in preparation for the end of days.
For the
And
return of Yeshua as well.
that's right, exactly. And
Because even if people weren't believers, because this is what Christians normally, everybody would think this. Even the Orthodox Jews, they say, how can you say that someone who wasn't a believer or wasn't a rabbi is the one to help start this? Ben Gurion was not an Orthodox rabbi, and he wasn't a Christian. But God used him, and someone like Cyrus. Even Trump is called sometimes like Cyrus. And how could God have used Cyrus himself? Because I don't even think it's about the coronavirus right now. It's about the call of Cyrus, which is prepare a place for the presence of the Lord in the land. That's the house of prayer, and help the Jewish people to return. So how can God do that through someone who's maybe not even a believer? Can he use a donkey? Yes, he can. But he wants mostly the believers to arise, not to be lagging behind. You know what I mean? They need to be leading the charge.
I mean, I'd sort of push back on that in a sense. I think like everyone ultimately is in the poem. Everyone is in God's text.
That's right. Even this plague.
When it talks about building of the Mikdash, the tabernacle,
yes.
It talks about, it has the interesting expressions, those who are willing of heart.
Yes.
Right? So
that's right.
If you're one who's like, I want to give to the establishment of this place of worship for God, like the Hebrew texts, the books of Moses have this language about the willingness of heart, those who choose, that it's like from within them, they want to give, and
Correct.
I think that's part of what we have a choice. And I really, obviously I'm really getting into the Arminianist, Calvinist, that the way I see it is that, like we have a time period of opportunity where God offers us, he's like, are you going to participate in what I want to do?
Uh-huh.
I am a father. I'm building a house, and I'm honoring my son, Yeshua, and we're getting this all ready for the wedding.
Yes.
Do you want to be involved in getting the bride ready, in getting the house ready for the wedding?
Right.
And we choose whether we want to be involved in that process. And this is one important dynamic of that.
100%. And it comes from a dying to self, or being that living sacrifice. When that, the problem with living sacrifices, the problem with them is they crawl off the altar. No one wants to be a sacrifice.
Right.
No one wants to. They crawl off and they run away. But to be in that place, get up, get back up there. But the thing with being a living sacrifice is a way that you can actually position yourself to surrender to God and to say, not my will, but yours be done. He led that charge when he raised that cup on Passover, right? Remember, he died on Passover. You remember? And he also raised the communion, Passover dinner, just reminding that he's remembering a time when there was a plague, but then there was a great Aliyah, and there was a great commissioning of many others to be part of the story. And that's what we're seeing now, is that in a time of plague, he's commissioning many, many more by his blood, the blood of the Passover lamb, who takes away the sins of the world, not just of Israel, but Israel too, to all come into the story. But it's not our will, but yours be done. But God, I want revival in Shanghai. I want revival in Shanghai. I want revival in Texas.
That's right.
Would like to have revival, please, in Cornwall. Cool. Very good. And that's important. But what about, God says, I feel, if you read the text, is, could I have a suggestion? I'd like to return to my land, the land I love, Israel. Will anyone help with that? And you'll get blessed, because I said I'll pour my spirit on all flesh, but will anyone want to be part of the story that I laid out pretty clearly? So that's kind of that's a little drama there. But I do feel there's some real truth to that. If we are willing, will he not bless our lands? Well, even everyone knows the blessing over Abraham. In him, all of the families of the earth will be blessed. And we know that those who bless you, I will bless, and those who curse you, I will curse.
I think you're transitioning from Wi-Fi to cell phone there.
Even in this time of plague, we can still be a blessing to our community. All of us, wherever we are, can help our community, and we could be helping right here without even coming to this place. But I just wanted to show you how the buildings looked when we first came.
Yeah.
Really, see, just to see what actually the spirit of volunteerism and people don't understand it even in Israel. Sure, back in the day, everybody was everything in common, kind of Acts style, Acts 2, you know, meaning everyone had everything in common. But now it's kind of gone into disrepair. Things are falling apart in this area. And so we swooped in and said, well, we like the Acts model, and we actually have the faith to actually do it. So if you'll grant us the ability to take over that whole big property, for the next 50 years or more, we will renovate all the old buildings. And we actually think that there's a 911 emergency prayer call. That's a 911 emergency. In prayer call. That's a most. Amos says that, Uncle of David. You there?
Yeah, we just lost you for about 5 seconds.
I'll rebuild the tabernacle of David.
Just because
he says because of the lag.
No, I think it's because it might be detecting the Wi-Fi in the office building and switching.
Oh, you might be right. So I will rebuild the tabernacle of David.
Right, we're just gonna get Chaim back here in a second.
Oh, there we go. So the
All right,
tabernacle of David was fallen down, and in Amos chapter 9, verse 11, 9:11, you see that it's a time comes that has not happened yet, where it will be restored, and that it couldn't happen before the Aliyah. It couldn't happen before Jewish people returned to this physical place, nestled, as I said, right in the mountains, next to the mountains of Jordan, next to Syria, next to Lebanon, next to the Mediterranean Sea, next to Egypt, and so on. But it couldn't have happened before Israel, because it says, and I will bring my peace there. This is Haggai chapter 2. I talked about Amos 9:11. It goes on in verse 14. It says that they will plant their vineyards, they will rebuild the waste places, and they will never more be pulled up out of the land that I've given them. That hasn't happened until now. Something that's happening right now, a promise of a great peace, which is a blessing for all sons and daughters of Abraham everywhere.
Some people don't want to, how to say, they're a little concerned about believing for and contributing to this type of return and restoration of the Jewish nation, because they're concerned that they might be facilitating the coming Antichrist and one world government and things like that.
Well, that's complete fallacy to think that. I mean, you could say, I won't share the gospel anymore, because it says when the fullness of the Gentiles comes, then I'll pour my spirit out on Israel and they're going to all believe. So I better not share the gospel anymore, because if I do, the fullness will come, and that'll lead to the next thing, which will lead to the next thing, which will lead to the Antichrist.
Yeah, I think your point is right. Your point is that like that logic can be kind of applied very weird ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would be very bad to say let's not do anything, because anything we do is hastening the day of the Lord or the day of the Antichrist, which it's whatever's going to happen enemy-wise will happen.
I was just going to say, like, the thing is, I don't think we have to try to run away or avoid prophetic destiny that can't be stopped in some ways. Like, there's just like a certain sequence of events. Now I would want to position myself on the right side of history, in being part of Yeshua's kingdom, Jesus' kingdom. But at the same time is like, we can't become crippled. This is for pretty theological, like prophecy minded people, right? Like not everyone concerns themselves with this stuff, right? So I'm just kind of like thinking about some people that I might know who I know that I've had moments in my heart where I'm like, am I on the right side of like prophetic, when you talk about like sheep and goat nations and all these kind of things, like asking yourself some of these questions, like, hey, what side of that equation am I falling on? Like, am I part of something that I don't know? I got just like a little your farmer week. So anyway, I think maybe some of these, we can develop some of these topics later, I think.
But I think you're right, is that people don't need to be Bible expert, end times experts, in order to say, I know what I do know, and I'm going to act upon that. God has shown me what I do know. What I don't know, I don't know. What I do know is that it said, Ezekiel 39, all Jewish people will end up coming here. Not one will be left. We said Isaiah 49:22, the nations are going to carry the Jewish people here. The Canadians are going to help carry the Jewish people and help them here. We know heaven is going to be, New Jerusalem will be here, and we have a part to play. I would have a feeling, without, that being a sheep nation, or that one that hears the Galilean shepherd, the voice of the shepherd, I would think it would have to do with not just a voice that's saying anything. It would probably go in line with his word, and his words probably go in line with his words, because that's Yeshua said, I do everything I do only what my Father does, and so everything has to line up, and without knowing the sequence, because people love to argue sequences. Are we in the first trumpet now? Did anybody see a red horse?
Right.
Horses are able to give plagues. Is that Zechariah's horses with chariots, or is that actually the horse of Revelation? Are we on the bowls? Are we in the shofars? Is pre-trib, post-trib, trib's already long past, and we're in heaven already? Thing is, what we don't know, we don't know. We don't need to argue things we don't know, but we can get in line with what we do know, and that God is restoring his land, obviously. And even there's some supernatural, that we have supernatural case after case after case study after case study of how God's moved in this Aliyah Return Center, where God's inspired people, not in a religiosity, but in a faith. Oops, sorry, got you for a second there. Got you back.
Yeah.
So if I could add just this, on Passover, we have to purify ourselves. We have to remove the leaven from our hearts, or else we're just not going to be active in it. If we're busy, filled with leaven, and it's someone's trying to call me. That's why I keep shutting off. Someone's calling me. I hope they stop. But so filled with leaven, filled with sin, then we're never going to be able to step into our role, and we're never going to cross, because you remember who didn't cross was the people who didn't have the faith. They didn't have the boldness. I'm talking about in the time, because when the children of Israel crossed over the Jordan River, it was on Passover. We left on Passover, and 40 years later, we also crossed in.
Across from Jericho.
Yeah, that was on Passover. We crossed in, and we had Passover. So, and Yeshua had the communion cup on Passover, bringing in the cavalry at Calvary. Mm-hmm. And so it all happened on Passover, and that's why I'm so excited that now it's Passover, and now it's time to cross over. But we're not going to cross over if we haven't purified ourselves, because he said in Joshua, be strong and courageous, purify yourselves, because tomorrow we're crossing over. You remember that? And they purified them. Everybody had to purify themselves. And the priest got the box, Ark of the Covenant. They walked over, and then the water parted, and they went into a new era of their walk with God. And I think that's true for all of us. If we're after Melchizedek, what's Melchizedek busy doing? You remember what Melchizedek's busy doing? For priests, according to Melchizedek, he's busy bringing out the bread and the wine.
Right.
Which sounds like communion, or rather sounds like Passover, because that's where communion began, is at Passover. Right. So he lifted a Passover cup, and that's what Yeshua did. He lifted a Passover cup, and he said, this is my blood. You do this in remembrance of me. So Melchizedek, his big scene is Passover. When he goes and he brings, this is before, of course, Passover. This is when he meets Abraham.
It's interesting because the encounter between Abraham and Melchizedek happened after a great war, right? And rescuing, right?
Sodom. Yeah.
So interesting that Abraham saved Lot and defeated the 4 kings, and then met with Melchizedek in Salem. So correct. It's interesting how you see that pattern over and over again, where the same, basically like the Reed Sea, the crossing of the Reed Sea, after that first Passover was the how would you say, it was like the victory in the escape of a war, because they were being chased by chariots, armies, right? But God was the one, not Abraham, who was basically giving them the victory.
And there was plague. Don't forget, there was plague. And also, God was tearing down all the idols. What idols today? If we're really proposing that right now on Passover, there's a repeat of history like history does, God actually allows for things, and faith is being tested. Priests are arising who are going to be bringing in a harvest, like we have the barley harvest now. We got this barley harvest. And if there's going to be a great global harvest of faith, of his word, which means also Aliyah. It means also prayer is going to arise. And houses of prayer connecting in a great movement.
And also, yeah, if we become infected by the gods of the land,
Yes.
let's just throw out some names, like if we're talking about stock markets, so we're like amassing wealth. If we're talking
Yep.
about like our safety and pensions, as an example, government pensions or workplace pensions, companies, our sense of safety, if it's coming from those natural things, God has always and is calling us to step out of those gods of the land that give people safety, give people that sense, and to come into his kingdom, into relationship with him, that he gives you safety.
Correct.
And I think it's important though to mention that his safety does not mean you don't have discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing, is like sometimes people are running away from discomfort, and it's a natural human instinct, right, to want to be comfortable, right?
That's exactly it.
However, I would argue that in terms of what is biblically normative, God doesn't. It's ironic. I'm sitting here in a nice heated house in Ottawa. I have a well-paying job. I am definitely living in the definition of comfort. So, but that doesn't make this any less true. I'm just saying I recognize,
Yeah, Abraham had money, and God does, having money isn't bad at all. No one thinks that, especially not Jewish people. Lol. However, however, there is a true thing that people's theology doesn't always cover suffering, and suffering's a big part of the faith, and a lot of people don't get that suffering.
Right.
Yeah, Abraham had to suffer.
Suffer
Sure,
well.
God blessed him. Suffer and endure hardship like a good soldier. For example, I love to think of the Galilean story, being a Galilean. I call myself, by the way, for the record, Chaim the Galilean, because I live here in the Galilee, and I get to think of every Galilean story in a new light. So think of this when disciples are rowing. Yeshua's asleep. It's a big storm because he's about to do something big. He's about to bring a Hebrew's gospel out to a place where there's pigs. We don't do the whole pig scene, the whole bacon and cheese. Hold the bacon, please. So that was a Gentile area, they believe, called the Gadarenes, Gadara, Gergesenes. It's all the same place. And they're heading over there to get this guy that tears metal. He's like some transhuman or whatever, humanoid demon guy. And he's this crazy. So they're heading over there. My point is, all the disciples were sore afraid. They thought they're going to die. It was one of those bad storms that does happen on the Sea of Galilee that we've seen. And they all are like, why is Yeshua just asleep? Does he not have the power in this situation? But he's showing us, well, why? Let's ask the question. Why was he just asleep? Should he, good leader, just be asleep in this kind of time? He obviously was letting them exercise faith, letting their faith arise. You need to exercise. You said it at the beginning. You need to exercise just like your body. You need to exercise faith, and this is a global exercise of faith. So then he stood up and he says, yes, I do have the power. Peace be still. The whole thing was immediately calm. But he allowed for that. That's my point.
But that's a good metaphor. That's a good metaphor for our lives, like even today, for those of us around who are going through a storm. Maybe we're sick with the cold.
Maybe a friend.
Ooh, I almost caught it. Maybe there's a financial fallout of this thing. I mean, there's a lot of that. We can get angry, and this is the thing I've learned. Like, our hearts can get so easily offended at God. You can get really mad at Jesus for sleeping on the boat, right? You're like, how dare he?
Right.
How dare he relax and be at peace and rest while I am so upset? I am so scared, right? And
he could have done it ahead of time. He could have said, I'm going to take a nap now, so peace be still. And they're like, everything's quiet. Don't worry. You'll find out later. Peace be still. Okay,
this is for the future. Don't worry.
This is for the
Get ready for it.
And also air conditioning. Invent those quick. It gets hot.
That's a good word. I just think, for those of us, like, if you're in the boat with Jesus, and if you're calling on his name, and if you identify him as being the Messiah and the Son of God, then you're in the boat, man. So if he's sleeping, then you probably don't, yes, you do need to deal with your fear. Like, that's going to eat you alive. So work through that, right?
Well, another thing before we end this, I wanted to throw it out there. Whoever sees this is we shouldn't ever miss a chance to hear what these hills remember, the rocks and the stones here. So these rocks and these stones, they remember something, the stone memory. And they would hear right over here by the Jordan River, they would hear, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. The sound of this sound of this a spirit of Elijah being released. Of course, right now, fathers and sons are coming together. Families are spending time that they haven't had. Daddy's usually always at work. I forgot what he looks like. now daddy's home with the kids. But there's this thing, but there's also this voice of repent. So I think we can't lose the chance. If God's shaking, a judgment starts in the house of the Lord. If God is shaking the church, first of all, and the nations, and saying, I want a pure bride. I want to do something amazing in the earth. I want a great latter glory. Kavod. Kavod is glory in Hebrew. If that kavod is going to come out of the COVID, then somehow that God's glory is going to be released, and he's always got a plan in all this, then we can't lose our chance to purify ourselves, get the leaven out, and repent. So I would say, I know it's a word that no one likes to hear, unless they're one of those guys that are like, if he doesn't scream at me in this sermon, I won't feel like I got it. Yeah. I need to be screamed at by him.
I need some old-time religion.
I need some real preaching. I want someone to spit on me. I want someone to smack me. And I'm like, whoa, slow down. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just taking hold of what God's really saying in this time and owning it and saying, the prophets say, we have sinned. We have, not they. We have sinned. I have sinned. And we have fallen a little short of the glory. And so we want that. And I think this is a great, and then it's freedom. Then it's freedom, then it's power. And then it's bearing witness. And healings need to come back to this world. And
it's receiving,
yes.
It's receiving from God what he wants to do, and
yes.
whatever he calls you to do, however he calls you to plug into the kingdom.
Right.
And one thing I'll mention on that is how do I say that? The spirit of fear is a very real thing. And people, I don't really know. I've experienced it before in my life where I feel like the voice of God is a frightening thing. It's a terrifying thing. Because you don't know what he's going to ask you to do. You don't know how he's going to ask you to change. And, I guess there's a prayer rising up in my throat here that God would deliver us from the spirit of fear, that he would deliver us from and I say the spirit of fear as in it's a mentality or it's a way of thinking, but it is also can be a demonic spirit that has power and control over people.
It's not the spirit of God. It's not the spirit of God.
It's not, and love and that spirit don't get along so good.
And so power and a sound mind too. I have not given you a spirit of fear, but power and a sound mind.
Absolutely. And so maybe we can end today just with a prayer that God, Holy Spirit, we just ask that you would powerfully move on us, your body, to wash us clean of all spirit of fear. Whether it's related to finances, whether it's related to health, whether it's related to death, whether it's related to martyrdom, whether it's related to loss of dreams, or it's fear of your voice and what you will ask us to do in this time of history. So Holy Spirit, I just ask that you would deliver us from that. Release us from the spirit of fear. Help us to cross through the waters, receiving the blood of the Lamb, receiving that washing flow, and being released into to walking and establishing your kingdom on the earth. And there's so many people, like we're just talking about, in the biblical history that had to go through the transition and walk into freedom, but also the comforts that come with true freedom, the challenges that come with true freedom, and the risk involved in true freedom. So, Lord, we love you and we bless you and ask that you would just lead us, lead your family, lead the body.
Yes, Lord. Yes.
In Yeshua's name.
Amen. Bless my brother Gabriel, the whole congregation there, the saints that are arising. Bless them all. Keep them all safe. Lord, bless the health workers that are out there working all over the world tirelessly. Well, probably they're getting tired. So give them strength. And we just thank you for the governments. We thank you. Just bless them with wisdom. Many are in quarantine. Oh, Lord, we just pray for the righteousness to come, for the hearts to be unleavened, Lord, and really that there's no fear in love. And but we just thank you, Father God, that in and through it all, you will have your way, and the devil is defeated. And if you're allowing a Passover plague, we know that you will bring a Passover miracle. And you've raised that cup, you've brought us in, you've done everything, Lord. And so we just ask you, Lord, make us make us sinless, Lord. Make us leavenless. Make us unleavened. And we thank you for what you're doing in this time, Lord. We just thank you for the righteous to arise and shine like the stars in the heavens.
Amen.
Amen.
Good stuff. Awesome, bro.
Hallelujah.
Hey, man, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for, these are deep, this deep stuff. Whoever sees this, warn them that we're going deep.
You know, it's only the faithful that endure to the end, you know. It's a YouTube video, right? Or it's going to be Facebook.
Right.
So
That's
you got the first 2-minute people, and then you got like the full commitment people. So they got the parity.
Yeah. Hey, send it to me as well. I'll upload it. Blessings.
Absolutely. See you soon, bro. Take care.
Bye-bye.